podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're listening to Achtung, Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to Achtung Millwall. My name is Nick Hart and welcome to our continuing series of Look Back into the Past for the forthcoming fixture. Now this one obviously covers Saturday's home fixture against Middlesbrough, so I've been having a look back through the years past for Millwall versus Middlesbrough wins. Now, as a general kind of principle, dear listeners, whenever Middlesbrough come to us, it tends to favour us, long way down from Teesside, isn't it? And the reverse for the away fixture. We tend not to get an awful lot of joy on our trips to Middlesbrough, so it's few and far between. But for today's fixture that I've chosen for you is one from the past, a little loved competition, the League Cup. We tend not to do very well in the League Cup. We don't tend to favour it anywhere near as much as the FA Cup. But I've chosen one from 2010, 15 years ago. And I chose it probably as much because I'm at the time of life where you start to realise that recent times rapidly become history. Your life becomes, historical in a sense that 15 years is not a very long period of time. And yet somehow it looks to be a different time, different place, different names that are both familiar and yet now very much set in the past. I don't know if any of that makes any sense to you, dear listeners, but I'm becoming increasingly conscious of that the older I get. So anyway, waffle. The fixture I've chosen for your delectation today ahead of Saturday's home game against the Boro is one from 2010, 24th of August 2010 in the League Cup second round at what they still describe as the New Den. I don't know when the New Den ever becomes the Den on external websites, but this is from 11 versus 11 website, which is an invaluable resource, incidentally, dear listeners. So this was a 2-1 win for the Lions in the second round of the League Cup, played in front of just 6,700 at home. Referee was Graham Horwood, name from the past there. The two goals from Steve Morrison with a penalty on 29 minutes and Liam Trotter on 39. So Lions took a 2-goal lead into half-time. And a late consolation for one Scott MacDonald for Middlesbrough in the 89th minute, making a 2-1 win for the Lions. We would progress on in this little love competition, in truth. We would exit in round 4 of that season's League Cup with a 2-1 loss at Ipswich in September of 2010. This was, of course, our first season back in the Championship after promotion, the famous triumph at Wembley, the win at in the National Stadium over Swindon Town in 2010. And we would actually finish 9th in this particular season, 5 points off of Nottingham Forest in the 6th promotion spot on 75, the playoff spot. So it was actually a decent season for us back in the second tier after promotion from the third division, as I always think of it. Your two teams' lineups. I've got both teams' lineups here. I'll run through them both. As I say, both familiar and yet in the past. David Ford in goal for the Lions. Back line of Alan Dunn, Paul Robinson, Darren Ward. In the midfield, defender midfield, as they put it here, Jimmy Abdu, Scott Barron, James Henry, Liam Trotter in midfield, Danny Schofield, name from the past there, and up front, Neil Harris and Steve Morrison. Subs coming in the 76th minute, Darren Carter. There's a name that we'll come back to. Completely forgotten Darren Carter playing for Millwall. He came in for Danny Schofield on 76. And also Kevin Lisby, Charlton stalwart, coming on for Neil Harris in the 76th minute. A yellow card for James Henry on 70. On the bench for the Lions, not used this night, Steve Mildenhall. Remember Steve Mildenhall? Jack Smith, good regular kind of straight down the line player. Tamika Makanda-Weary, I think, was player of the season this year or the season prior. I can't remember. Certainly got a player of the season plaudit. Darren Carter, we've mentioned. Chris Hackett, another good player. Kevin Lisby and John Marquis, some names from the past. The Middlesbrough lineup, we've got a goal for Scott MacDonald, as I've said already, but I'll just run through their names. I don't really know some of the players in any great depth other than surface. Jason Steele in goal, Steve McManus, Matt Kilgallen, David Wheater, Julio Arca, Justin Hoyt. I think he was a Millwall player at one point, Justin Hoyt. Nick Bailey, Barry Robson, Tarmo Kink, Leroy Leiter, and Scott McDonald, who would of course come to the Lions later in the 2010 decade. Chris Boyd on the substitute bench. Celtic player at one point, I believe, come on for Leroy Leiter on 64, and Andy Halliday for Matt Kilgallen. Yellow card for Tarmo Kink in that tumble with James Henry. There we are. We do have a match report. Mill 2, Middlesbrough 1. This is from the BBC's website. Steve Morrison and Liam Trotter scored first half goals as Mill cruised to a Carling Cup second round victory. It's had a few different sponsors. This particular competition. It's the what's it called now? It's a Caribou Cup now, isn't it? Carling Cup back in the day. Millwall opened the scoring when Matthew Kilgallen brought down Alan Dunn in the penalty area, and Morrison converted the resultant spot kick. Trotter made it 2-0 when he finished from Neil Harris's header across goal. Julio Arca's 25-yard strike hit the bar as Boro fought back, though, before David Ford misjudged Scott McDonald's shot to gift the visitors a consolation goal. That was on the 89th minute. But overall, Millwall boss Kenny Jackett's side barely got out of second gear as they brushed Middlesbrough's side. Former Stevenage striker Morrison impressed throughout, and the Lions were worthy winners. This is probably the start this season. Obviously, the promotion season was the start of Morrison's golden age, really, wasn't it? Late developer, as they say. The only blot on the home side's copybook was the error from Ford, who seemed to think the ball was going over from McDonald's strike, and bizarrely he let the ball go into net. One of David Ford's brain fade moments. All goalkeepers have them. He certainly did on occasions. Great goalkeeper, though. But it did not prove costly, it says, for the keeper as his side advanced to the third round. However, Middlesbrough boss Gordon Strachan was unhappy with the penalty decision. He told BBC Teesside, quote, "In life, as I said to the referee, I get paid more than the coaches and the referee more than the linesman because I have to make the big decisions." Where's he going with this, listeners? If I have to release a player, then I have to look him in the eye and make that decision. I don't send my backroom staff to tell them they're freed. So if you're 5 yards away and there's a decision to be made, you decide no penalty, there's no point in looking at somebody 15 yards away to say, is that a penalty? I see where Gordon Strachan's going with that, but I'm not sure it's going to wash. He got, that's the result. 2-1 for the Lions. Sounds like he's moaning there to me, dear listeners. Progression, as I say, we would exit the competition in the fourth round that season. We've never really done an awful lot in the League Cup, or the Caribou Cup as it's known. It's had various iterations over the years. Quarter-final, I remember back in the 90s, we didn't go to Swindon in the quarter-finals. And I certainly remember in the 70s a quarter-final, which I've mentioned a few times on these kinds of shows, played against Norwich at the Den, a midweek fixture. It kicked off in the afternoon. But often we make early round exits in the League Cup, and round 4 is probably one of the longest runs we've had in the competition for some years. We tend not to even go that far. But there we are. I've picked a few players out for you. And as I say, the thing that struck me, and the reason I've gone for this particular fixture, twofold really. One is it's a win. And if I can do a Millwall win on these shows, I will try to. The second is it just seems so, like I said at the start of this little monologue, seems so recent and yet so far away. And I think that's a story of life itself, listeners. So we've picked out Scott McDonald in this particular match playing for Middlesbrough. Played for Millwall, of course, signed for us 2013. Very small player, wasn't he, Scott McDonald? Never really very effective, I didn't think, but clearly he's done the rounds here. Scott McDonald playing for Middlesbrough in this one. 59 games for Millwall, though, 2013 to 2015. 6 goals. Don't remember him scoring that many, but he clearly did. Born in Melbourne, Australia, 1983. Various Aussie clubs. Then he came to Southampton in 2000, Huddersfield on loan, AFC Bournemouth, Wimbledon, Motherwell, Glasgow Celtic, 2007, Middlesbrough for £3.5 million, blimey. 2015, in 2010, Mill 2013. Then he went up north again, Motherwell, Dundee, retired to Australia. The biographer Scott McDonald says, Australian international Scott initially came to the UK with Premier League Southampton, but it wasn't until he moved to Scotland that his career took off. The leading scorer in Celtic's 2008 Scottish Premier League title success. He also won the Scottish League Cup a year later. He was top scorer at Middlesbrough in 2011, and in 2013 he arrived at the Den on a free transfer But his time in South East London wasn't a success. Very dryly put by Neil Fissler there in his A to Z book. It wasn't a success. I reinforce that particular emotion there, Neil. And he found goals hard to come by, certainly did. His contract was ended by mutual consent 6 months early, and he's now retired working in the media, presumably in Australia, I'm going to guess. Made his debut versus Yeovil Town in 2013. Scott McDonald, there we are, scorer for Middlesbrough in this particular League Cup fixture I've picked out. I've also picked out Liam Trotter. I used to like Liam Trotter. He divided opinions somewhat, didn't he, dear listeners? Liam Trotter, like so many players, that's a creaking chair I'm on, by the way, not any bodily functions. Liam Trotter, midfielder. I always thought he was quite stylish. One of his high points was the late equaliser, which is still on YouTube. Well worth a watch, listeners. Southampton game, 2010-ish. I think they took the lead in injury time, and then we went straight from kick-off down the other end, and Liam equalised. And there's a wonderful video on YouTube, which I sometimes repost. Well worth a look if you get a chance. His career took in such clubs as Bury Town. He's born in Ipswich in 1988, so played for Bury Town, which is a Suffolk club, Ipswich Town, Mill on loan in 2006. A lot of loans, Grimsby, Scunthorpe, Mill loan 2010, permanent. And then Bolton Wanderers after a few years, 2014, and Forest and Wimbledon into America, Orange County Sports Club, soccer club maybe, 2019, and then back to Bromley. I did hear that he was taking refereeing courses and doing quite well with it. So we may see him as a referee at some stage, conceivably. The biog says Liam, who spent the early part of his career at Ipswich Town, joined the Lions for the first time aged 18, but he wasn't successful. He came on as a sub for Scunthorpe, of course, in the 2009 League Cup playoff final, which we finished up losing 3-2 rather. We finished up losing 3-2 on a very blindingly hot day, as I recall. And then 4 years later arrived for a second loan, becoming an influential member of the first team with some exceptional displays. He was a playoff winner with the Lions in 2010 and an FA Cup semi-finalist in 2013. He later helped Bolton to promotion in 2017, and as this biog was written, now plays for Bromley. I think he's retired and has taken up refereeing in his post-football career. I used to like Liam Trotter. Divided opinion, dear listeners. Did you like Liam Trotter? Did you love him or hate him? And finally, I've picked out a name that was obscure. One of the joys of doing these kinds of shows, dear listeners, is you can pick out the obscurities. And I'd just completely forgotten that Darren Carter played for Millwall. He was a midfielder, played just 12 games for us between 2010 and 2011. Born in Solihull, Birmingham, 1983. His career took in Birmingham, Sunderland, West Brom, Preston, and then Mill on loan in 2010. Just brief period with us. Cheltenham, he went on to Northampton Forest Green Rovers. A former England under-20 international, Darren started his career as part of a Birmingham City squad that won promotion to the Premier League in 2002 and was later loaned to Sunderland when they won a championship title 3 years later. He joined the Lions but got sent off in his debut. I don't remember that, do you? He got sent off in his debut against Bristol City on the opening day of the 2010-11 campaign. This is what I mean. It's so recent yet so far away. He picked up 2 yellow cards, got sent off. He then found it difficult to get into the starting lineup. Darren was part of the Forest Green Rovers side that won promotion to the Football League from National League in 2017. He's now academy manager at Solihull Moors, Darren Carter. So there's a chance to mention a name that probably in other circumstances wouldn't get mentioned one way or the other in any kind of Mill history show, but I just thought I'd take that chance. That's ahead of Saturday's impending home fixture versus Middlesbrough. I picked out a win from the past, even if it was a relatively minor win in the big picture. 2-1 win over Middlesbrough. Second round of the League Cup, 24th of August 2010. Do you remember that game? Do let me know if you do. So thank you for listening, dear listeners. Let me know if you enjoy these little looks back into the past, and if you've got any other suggestions for other historical pieces. So this one was, not near enough for it to be touching distance, but so far away that it looks like a different age. There we are. Thank you for listening, dear listeners. Up the Lions, Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.